I love Spielberg. He's my favorite director. His movies aren't perfect, for instance, in terms of intellectual sophistication. They sometimes seem to be lacking. But that doesn't matter. They still hit me viscerally like no other movies do. I feel his movies like no other movies. Even when they are overly sappy and sentimental, they still have a drive and a vigor to them that's unique and that goes a long way to defining the very nature of cinema, at least for me. What other movies feel as full-bloodedly cinematic as Spielberg's? Even the ones that are a bit misjudged and unsuccessful still have at least some measure of that peculiarly Spielbergian energy that I'm addicted to and that gives me life. So we want to try to define that energy as closely as we can, and to that end, we're going to watch each and every one of his films in search of the essence of it. This is Spielberg, The Essay. We're looking at the feature films Spielberg has directed, from Duel in 1971 to Ready Player One in 2018, so we won't look at the television work. If anyone is interested, I refer you to YouTuber Badamtish and his excellent overview of Spielberg's early career. He's doing God's work.
I would like some information. I'm filling out my census form right now, and I have an awful problem.
From the very beginning, we see a surprising commitment to realism in Spielberg. We'll return to this again and again, especially in Jaws, and Spielberg called Jaws basically
the sequel to Duel, only it's on the water.
Instead of a man being chased by an evil shark, it's a man being chased by an evil truck driver. Spielberg said this about the realism.
Because I said to him, I'm going to shoot this all on location. And he said to me, you cannot shoot a movie of this scale on location in 10 days. And I said, Wally, I don't want to shoot this if I have to go inside. It's going to look fake. You can look out all the windows of the cars. It won't be a chase. It'll be a guy comfortably sitting on a soundstage with bad process out the windows.
I think he's right. The thing that sells Duel is the landscape and the sense to realize that what this kind of spectacle-driven story requires is a sense of cinematographic realism is the thing that singles out Spielberg, even at this early stage. The thing that I feel isn't entirely in place yet in Duel is the sense of character. The protagonist, David Mann, played by Dennis Weaver, in hindsight clearly looks like Roy Scheider in Jaws, another everyman put upon by a large, unseen force of evil. But compared to Scheider, David Mann just comes across as a bit unpleasant.
You think that I should go out and call Steve Henderson up and challenge him to a fist fight or something?
No, of course not. But I think you could have at least said something to the man last night. I mean, after all, he was practically trying to rape me in front of that whole party.
Oh, come on, honey.
This kind of thing burdens what should be just an abstract exercise in pure tension, and I suspect the 70 minutes television version of Duel is superior to the 90 minutes theatrical version for that reason. The scene with the wife isn't in there, for instance. Still, it's a frankly unbelievable achievement for a 24-year-old to make this in 12 days.
I look back at it, number one, saying, how did I get all those shots in 12 or 13 days? How was that possible?
Interestingly, Spielberg's next movie also begins with a trope of the nagging wife.
I don't want my baby back. Are you gonna help me or not?
Sugarland Express, which is a lovely movie, probably the least known Spielberg film, about a husband and wife who take a young police officer hostage in order to bargain back their child who's been placed in a foster family. Things don't turn out so well, as you can imagine, and it's one of the great strengths of the movie that one can't altogether tell how Spielberg regards this outcome. It's the first time in Spielberg's work a parent is separated from their child, and you'd think that that's what would engage Spielberg's sympathies the most. But for me, the movie's greatest sympathy lies with Clovis, the hapless husband who's kinda reluctant to embark on this journey to begin with.
And I want to know if you're gonna help.
Sure I am. Sure I am. Sure I am.
That's the real tragedy of the story. We get a wonderful scene later in the film where a kind of understanding is developing between Clovis and the young police officer.
I've been thinking about getting on the highway patrol.
They won't take a man with a record. I think it's a state law.
Both seem to realize that Clovis could have found himself on the right side of the law, and Spielberg even reinforces this realization with a mirroring shot. The actors even look alike. Doublings, mirrorings, and shadowings are important to Spielberg's directorial style, which we'll see. But Clovis seems resigned to have to follow his wife on her mad quest, and the fact that he never really posed any actual harm is expressed beautifully in the last line, one of the loveliest last lines of any movie.
He took my gun, but he wasn't going to use it.
It's wonderfully subtle and right to let the story end with the police officer and the impact these people made on him. Pretty underrated movie.